Hello, beautiful souls of love and light. This is Lady Nanari, Princess of the Sea, coming to you with a special video. With permission from a woman who I mentor on the Twin Soul path, since I give Twin Soul mentoring sessions, and if you wish to have a session with me, please feel free to contact me off of my websites, diamondlady.net, soulsongsatsongoftheheart.net, or our Twin Soul website, which is not2nanari.net. This said, I was given permission by this woman because what channeled through was of such benefit to her, and she sent me a letter back saying how overwhelmingly beautiful this was in helping her, in which her response back to me was, wow, just wow. I am absolutely speechless at the recorded session you sent me. I am honestly at a loss for words because there are so many times when I felt chills in my soul saying, yes, yes, yes. So, this said, she also gave me permission to feel free to put any part of this session on YouTube, Facebook, as that she knows it will benefit others who are going through the same thing with Twin Soul relationships, divine relationships, partnerships, unions, and whatnot. I want to be able to share this with you. This is quite a long session, and I also put some other wisdom in it in between to help benefit you and humanity on the sacred path of twin souls, but also for all relationships, all connections. In this session, we talk about something called ghosting. We also talk about number alignments and number synchronicities. We talk about the deep reason and connection for twin soul union, and how to be able to handle those times of separation, which I know so many of you are going through. So I will let you listen to it, and may it bless you in love always, in all ways. Hello, beautiful divine feminine goddess. This is 06 May 2018, in which I will channel through for you in a twin soul mentoring session what the Master Artist, Source, God Spirit has to share with you, as well as accessing the Akasha upon your inquiry. So now to the questions that you are asking for guidance on related to your twin soul. Firstly, you're asking, is he really your twin soul? And you said you sent him a message the other day after 2.5 months of giving him some space, and that he seemed really apathetic, and that he didn't care for you much at all. He seemed distant, not just physically but emotionally and soulfully, if that makes any sense, you said. And you thought to yourself, no way is he my twin. You say, probably doesn't even realize the deep connection between us. You said you just wanted to mention that you also went to 2 local psychics with friends. It was mostly your friends that wanted to see them, that you just tagged along. When you asked the 2 different psychics about your twin soul, they said they couldn't pick up on his energy and to not believe that he's your twin soul, and that you tried to be as open as possible, but overall you feel confused on the real reason that you crossed paths with him, and of your soul agreement and soul lessons. And if you are twin souls, what is your mission together? And am I allowed to share his soul's name in that respect? Okay. You said in addition, there's some other things that are coming through. You said that you're quite nervous because you're going to Italy at the beginning of July, and it is possible you may see him, your twin soul, because you are having mutual friends, and it's your friend's wedding and that you're going to, and that your twin soul seemed to be so emotionally detached, as if he doesn't really have any excitement for life. Or maybe he just feels this way whenever you talk together. You said a few days ago you told him that you still loved him, that you didn't expect him to return the feelings, that you just wanted to share and spread the love, but that you feel he still harbors negative feelings towards you for being that tornado, and that he can often think about the bad times that occurred when you broke up, and that you're so afraid that when you see each other, he will see you as the tornado, old you, when you just want to be on good terms friends. At times you say you listen to the channeled wisdom that I share on my YouTube about twin soul union as a reminder to take the time to focus and care for you. But you say you can't help but feel like everything is divinely orchestrated. The whole breakup that you had in November, then in December receiving the Italian wedding invitation for July, then in January you said you realized you accidentally left your traditional skirt that your mum gave you at his house, your twin soul's house in Italy, and since you had already planned to be in Italy in July, that may be the reason to meet, so that he could give you the stuff. And this seemed also divinely planned as well, more than a coincidence, if that makes sense, you said, and that you question whether you're just making stuff up in your head, that you hope the energy isn't awkward or tense when you meet. So you went on to say here that you're supposed to be working on yourself, loving yourself, caring for yourself during this period, as I had shared with you before in your session, and also share on my videos, and that you say you're trying, that you have a lot of suppressed stuff and deep emotions and all human wounds that have been coming up, that you've been trying to heal through the meditational hypnosis therapy and the videos and the multidimensional timelines, that you're eating better with raw fruits and veg, which is fantastic, and that you're going to the gym, and that you've been focusing on your sales job to generate more abundant flow in that realm, and that you're getting Italian tutoring every week, which is fantastic, by the way. You said, however, you just can't help but think about your twin soul. Overall, you are asking because you are writing because there is something you wanted to ask, something that you feel you need to know about this, that you don't know what it is necessarily, but you feel it, and that you're seeking an answer, but you don't even know what the question is, and that you feel that Source and I will have something to share with you, because we know you so soulfully, and to share the guidance that's coming through. And then you also say that for the past month you have been seeing 11:11, 22:22, 33:33, and 44:44 everywhere, to let you know what that means, that you looked it up online, but it feels so generic what you saw. The synchronicities are showing up, and there obviously is a deeper reason, you say, why they're showing up, and what is Source, Master Artist, and your guides telling you through that. So you thank me in advance for such, and say that sorry, you're so messed up and worrisome in this foggy period in your life, and you would like some wisdom from your favorite mentor of me. I love you, you say, and you hope that I am having a great day so far, and to please take my time in responding and wishing me much love and joy. Well, dearest beautiful goddess, that's a mouthful. We'll take it one step at a time in that respect, but first let me say, first and foremost, please be free from feeling sorry that somehow you're messed up and worrisome in this foggy period of your life, because it is okay. It is more than okay to feel what you're feeling, to feel foggy, to feel as if you're messed up and worrisome. And you know what? We all have those moments. Buddha did, Jesus did, Muhammad did. Just because all of these enlightened ascended masters, were so enlightened didn't mean that they didn't have these experiences once they had attained enlightenment, or as Jesus coming here as the Son of God, in things of that nature. Part of the human experience is to have those moments when you feel messed up, have those moments when you feel worrisome or foggy. What this does is, and I just posted a quote on Facebook about this, it helps you, I refer to disease or being at dis-ease, right? Being not at ease with the body, or not at ease with life, or thought processes and things like that. It's a call for you to come back into who you are, is all. So it's more than okay, and it is free from meaning that you're somehow fully messed up or horrible or anything else. It's just letting you know, oh, okay, you've kind of strayed off the path a bit, yeah? And it's now about coming back into who you are, of your soul. So, the questions about your twin soul. Is he really your twin soul? First and foremost, let me address the issue of the two local psychics. As you said, you went, mostly it was your friends that wanted to see them and that you just tagged along, but that you had asked these two psychics. Now, you may remember from week 2, session 2 of the Soul Mediumship course that you were on, in which I explained the different levels of mediumship and the different levels of connecting to source. Psychics are at the very bottom of the pyramid, and there are plenty of them. And as you may recall from the course, I stressed that this is free from meaning that psychics are bad, or that they're somehow not accurate. But what a psychic is doing is, as I shared with you in the course, they're reading your energy. They're reading your, in terms of your auric field, in terms of your emotions, in terms of what you are projecting and feeling. They're not reading the soul. They are free from reading the soul. They're free from tuning into soul agreements. They're free from tuning into the actual soul essence. And this is why both of these two different psychics said they could not pick up on your twin soul's energy, and that they don't believe his twin, that you are twins, that he is your twin soul. The reason is that they are not in the vibrational frequency essence of the soul. So how can they be able to pick up on energy that they're not in the vibrational frequency of? And how can they pick up on the fact that he's your twin soul if they're not in that vibrational frequency? So in other words, it's like, if you remember from the Soul Mediumship course, and I've also said this in my videos and whatnot, tuning into vibrational frequency is like being on a radio dial. So if the psychics that you saw, as all psychics do, let's say they're tuning in on the radio dial to 100.7, they cannot hear what's on 98.7, okay? Unless they're tuned into soul essence. When you're tuned into soul essence and you're tuned into multidimensional consciousness, which was in session 1, and I've also talked about it in my video on timelines and timeline loops about the spoon, yeah? When you're in multidimensional consciousness, then you're able to tune into more than one radio station at the same time. And I likened that to when you're tuning the radio dial, like our old radios. When you were actually tuning it, you could turn the knob and you would get a mix of both radio stations, yeah? And digitally now you may be able to go up and down, instead of it being 100.7, you may get to 100.8 or 100.9 or something like that, and then be able to tune in to what's on 100.1 or something like that. Or 101, 0.1 or something of that nature, right? So when you're in between the two radio stations, so to speak, in between the multi-dimensions, then you're able to tune into this. However, these psychics are not tuned into soul essence. So there's no way possible that they could tune in. And this is why they said to you that they couldn't pick up on his energy. And that they didn't believe he was your twin soul because they have no concept of it. They're not in the vibrational frequency. Now, there's also another reason to it. And this goes into what is going to be shared with you here about what's happening with the two of you since the breakup, quote unquote. Okay, and what this has to do with is that energetically and soulfully he has shut down. Okay, so even if they were in the soul frequency, if these psychics were in the vibrational frequency of the soul, they may have a hard time. Okay, now I can tune into his energy, and because of who I am and what I do, and accessing the Akasha and accessing soul essence and channeling source energy, the master artist, and even I am noticing his distance. Okay, I can feel, I can sense, I can see, I can experience his distance, his attempting to shut down. Okay, so first of all and foremost, in your heart, in your soul, you already know, your soul already knows that he is your twin soul. Now, the outer revelation and experience of that and synchronicities and everything else that has occurred in your time together from the moment you first connected, and even before that from the soul essence, to even now in this moment when you're supposedly quote unquote broken up, is the outside indication, the outside experience, the outer revelation of what you already know within, and what he as well already knows within. Okay, no matter how much we try to be distant, no matter how much we attempt to dumb it down, if you will, or not listen to the soul and whatnot, the soul, even in its quiet whisper, is still there with that inner knowing. Okay, so from a soul essence, your soul knows. I'm not telling you anything that your soul doesn't already know. Okay, I can look, which I am, looking at your Akasha, your Akashic records to know, and this is part of who I am and what I do here on this earth, is part of my gifts is to know who the twin souls are on this earth, and to assist them when they come forth to me. And as part of my own path as a twin soul, being with my twin soul for 10 plus years now, and also because this is my individual's purpose, here on this earth. So, this said, okay, he is distant. Okay, so you had said, you had sent him a message the other day, and he seemed apathetic and didn't really care for you much, and that he seemed distant emotionally, soulfully, and physically. So you are correct, and here is why. It is free from being because he's not your twin. Okay, he is your twin. What has happened is, although quote unquote officially from a human earthly perspective, you supposedly broke up, he supposedly broke up with you in November last year, twin souls can't break up. There is no such thing. There is a vibrational frequency energy signature, a soul blueprint that you share. That's what it means to be twin souls. It is the same soul in two bodies, just like earthly twins. Earthly twins share the same earthly human DNA, can often look alike, or are, fraternal or paternal or what have you, and may not necessarily look alike, but they share the same DNA and are literally twins. So you can't break up. You are free from ever breaking up. From an earthly perspective, you may say sod you, as we say here, or F you, as is said elsewhere in the world. And you may have, from an earthly perspective, quote unquote, broken up. But from a soul perspective, you can't break apart what's already one. That would be like trying to break up with Source. And many people have tried to break up with God, Spirit, the Master Artist, in their lives. They've said sod you to Source, and I'm angry with you, and you didn't help me in my life, and all this stuff, and they tried to do, quote unquote, divorce themselves from the Master Artist, from Source, God, Spirit, but you can't. How can you divorce yourself or break up from something that is you? Okay, We are, and this can be from a cosmic sense of we're already all one. We are source energy, so you can't break up from something that's source energy. Yeah. So it's the same thing with twins. It would be like earthly twins, even though they may or may not look alike, saying, "Oh, yeah, well, you're not my earthly twin. Just because we share the same DNA and what have you, I'm going to go move house to the other side of the earth, and we're no longer twins." I mean, how ludicrous is that? Yeah. Okay. It's absolutely, mad to say that. So you never really broke up. Okay. And at the heart of it and the soul of it, he knows this. And this is why he's emotionally, soulfully, and physically distant, because he's in a tremendous amount of pain, of suffering. He knows in his soul aspect, and there's the human aspect of him as well, that realizes with real eyes, REALEYES, with real eyes, that he loves you, that you are his twin. He may or may not have that necessarily that terminology. He may not necessarily believe in those words or understand what the connection is. But it's not about belief. It's about an inner knowing. It's that soul connection, yeah? So he knows this, and it's almost as if he knows he couldn't break up with you from a soul perspective, and so he's hurting. He's in a tremendous amount of pain. He's suffering, and he misses you, and he's overwhelmed, and he has no idea how to parlay those emotions. For the divine masculine, now this can happen for the divine feminine as well, because there are divine feminine in this position too. However, the general quote-unquote rule, if you will, is that the divine masculine is being indoctrinated and taught not to feel, not to have any emotions, not to sense, to feel these emotions and to express them. So they stuff them down, right? Because what do we usually tell our boys? What is being indoctrinated into our boys? I didn't do this with my children, and I broke that pattern in my family, but in society in general, big boys don't cry. Suck it up, buttercup. Be a man. Be a big boy. All of these kinds of phrases and things, are embedded into our culture. And so as a result, he has no idea how to experience these emotions. He misses you, he deeply loves you, and in essence, he doesn't and didn't really, quote unquote, mean to break up with you. Okay? And so the only way that he knows how to handle that is to be emotionally distant, to be physically distant, and to also be soulfully distant. Now, this parlays into my message to you because, interestingly enough, I received channel yesterday, and I was going to do a video on this actually. So if it is all right with you, as we did once before earlier on in this year, I took the recording of the session I did for you, and I put it up on YouTube and Facebook. If it's all right with your permission, I shall do that again for this, because this is a term that has come out in the society or whatever that's called ghosting. Okay, and for quote-unquote normal earthly relationships, if someone is emotionally distant, physically distant, soulfully distant, cutting off communication with you and whatnot in a normal earthly relationship, whatever type of relationship it is, whether it's a friendship, a parental, relationship, a work relationship, it doesn't matter the type of relationship, relatives, whatnot. When somebody does that, you often feel like, okay, they just don't have any interest. It's done, it's sorted, they've sorted off, and basically, if you're angry about it, you may say sod you back. If you are hurt, you may feel the same way, but you just basically say, right, they just don't have any interest in me, they're not into me, that's just the way it is, and you move on. Okay, and it's very easy to do that in other relationships. Now, family relationships, or if it was a close friend or something that you were really connected to, it may be a little harder. But nonetheless, it is relatively easy to be able to do this. Okay, to be able to move on, to shake them or to let them go and just say, okay, it's just, they're not into me. They're not into the friendship anymore. They're not into my sister, just, we just don't get on. Whatever the situation is, whoever it is, right? So earthly relationships are that way. So when somebody stops communicating with you, it's now termed something as ghosting. They just all of a sudden stop communicating with you. They're not responding to your texts or emails, they won't respond to your phone calls, they've just kind of disappeared. And it's usually just out of the blue, there's no explanation, there's no nothing. With twin souls though, ghosting of a twin soul is not the same thing. Okay? Most of the time, they don't know why they're doing it. They don't understand it. It's not an excuse or a cop-out because they don't understand why they're doing such. They know that you're the best thing that's ever happened to them, and they don't understand what's going on within them because it's triggering so much emotions. So ghosting, when a twin soul ghosts you, it is usually because they feel completely overwhelmed. They feel fear, they feel pain, such as your twin soul right now, suffering, and they don't know how to handle it. And rather than project it onto you, which can happen because I've experienced this with my twin soul, we've projected onto each other our pain and suffering, and also done the ghosting thing from that perspective, just kind of said, sod you, or just not contacted each other or whatnot. But ghosting is usually done because there's something deeper going on. It's because there's a trigger, and the twin souls need to have that breather or that time to clear what is required to be cleared out of the earthly muck, whatever's triggering. It could be abandonment issues. It could be, I'm so overwhelmed with this unconditional love, I don't know what to do with it. I've never experienced it in my life before. How can this person love me no matter how much I've treated them like shit? I've been utter shite to them, and here, he loves me still, or she still loves me. There's this sense of overwhelming, there's this fear of being engulfed, of being smothered, of not being able to be free. There's all these different things. There's a repelling of the energy that is such divine love. The very thing that we want is the very thing we repel because we don't know what to do with it. And so, the difference that you notice with ghosting in earthly relationships, quote unquote, and the twin soul union is twin souls always come back to one another, no matter what. They're magnetically drawn to one another, and that's why you may remember that yin-yang post that I did of that joke. I didn't create it, but it's rather quite funny in that sense. I posted it, and I think you may have laughed when I did so. It is the yin yang symbol, which is actually really twin souls, and it says it's the black one standing up, then the white one's down below, and basically the white one's saying, go ahead and leave me, but you'll come back. You always come back. So it's a cartoon, right? The yin yang, it always comes back to each other, right? So twin souls always come back to each other. Okay, and that's the difference between, earthly ghosting, if you will, because when it comes to the twin soul union, no matter what, you're energetically brought back together. So I'm going to pause the session here for just a moment and put in this little bit of wisdom here that was not coming through necessarily from Source and from her Akasha in this session, that is for everyone who is on the twin soul path and everyone who experiences this phenomenon called ghosting. underneath it all, if you get to the heart of ghosting, whether it is earthly relationships or it's the twin soul union and path, the sacred path of that, underlying it all, the core reason that somebody ghosts somebody or somebody cuts off communication or struggles with communicating is because of what is going on deeply within them. They are hurting within them, and they have things that they haven't processed, even if it's anger at you or if it's hurt and pain having to do with you, in how they feel, but it's their thought processes and what's going on with them. And so you're being invited into that place of compassion to understand. Now, I will also share that this has nothing to do with this person's behavior, because at the heart of it, when we care about someone, whether it's a friendship, whether it's an acquaintance of someone we're getting to know, a relative, our twin soul, a partner, whoever it is, when we care, we will speak up. We will take the moments that we need to take, to go within, but we won't just walk away. We won't ghost. Okay, so obviously ghosting means there's something deeply wrong. Okay, in other words, not wrong as in something bad in that sense, but you're invited into a sense of compassion, of understanding. Now, does this excuse the person's behavior? No, because as I said, when you love someone, you care about someone, even if it's just as a friendship or a contact, you reach out, you take the time, you make the effort, okay? Because relationships, unions, whatever you choose to call them, they're like a garden, okay? And our garden, for our flowers to grow and our trees to grow and our plants to grow, just like, Mother Earth grows and flourishes, requires what? The proper conditions. Not conditions as in conditional love, there's a big difference, but the proper conditions in terms of sunlight, water, air, proper balance, nutrients in the soil, things of that nature, So it's the proper things that it needs for it to thrive and grow, so the flowers and the trees and the plants can grow. So our relationships, our unions, our connections with people on this earth require the same thing. And it requires both people or all parties involved being this balance. Okay, so when one is and the other isn't, it makes it very difficult. So sometimes you're meant to hold space, and give that person space so that they can process. But when you give them too much space and you allow them to constantly ghost you, and this is when it causes issues in relationships and connections, So I go on further here in the session to share with her some other things that, she can be in a place of resonance with, and you will hear that. But I just wanted to put this into this recording so that you understand it does not validate somebody's behavior when they're ghosting you, because it's not, a proper way to deal with people. When you care, you take the time to spend with these people, and if there is a problem, you raise it in a way that is a conscious way that you can speak to that person from the heart, and you speak from the heart. You take those times, those moments to come into that heart-centered place, taking your deep breathing and seeing it from the other's perspective as well, and before you engage with them, and rather than just ghosting, as they say. So at the deep heart of it, that's what's really going on. So it does not excuse the behavior. However, it gives you a means to understand it and to come into compassion, to know that somebody who's ghosting you is really hurting within them to do what they're doing. And although you may choose to then keep your distance as well and do so from a place of love, is really rather than, I'm just going to do what they're doing to me kind of thing. So I go on further here in the session to explain some of that, but I wanted to put that inside this recording now so that people also have that. Now we will get back to the session. Okay, so this is why it's not a surprise, and the reason that you've been experiencing the synchronistic numbers. The synchronistic numbers overall are letting you know that you are on the right path. First of all, personally, you're on the right path of working on you, although it may seem that, you are struggling with it. A lot of suppressed stuff and deep emotions are coming up, and the wounds are coming up, which is actually good. That is absolutely beautiful, but you are on the right track in terms of what you're doing with your work, in terms of what you're doing with shining your own light, in terms of the balance between adulting, as you said, living the adult life in the matrix, and also doing the spiritual work. You're going to the gym, you said, you're eating raw fruits and veg, you're really coming into your own. Okay, and so those numbers are synchronistic to let you know, first of all, that your twin soul is always there with you. That he is your twin soul, and that you are on the right path with Source, with your twin soul. You're also on the right path in your own individual journey at this present moment, of taking the time to love you and doing what you need to do and being on that path. Now, the specific numbers themselves, 1111 is the twin soul number. It's also the ascended master number. So this is the ascended mastery, having to do with ascended masters like Jesus, Krishna, Buddha, Muhammad, all of these ascended masters that are meant to work with you and are working with you. They're letting you know. It's also helping you to come into the ascended master that you already are as source energy. Yeah? We're all ascended masters. It's just as, we play this game of life. We come here to this earth and we forget who we are. So it is Source letting you know that you are on the path of being that ascended master, of remembering that, of who you are. Okay. Now, the 222, the 2222, 2222, I should say, 2222 energy is divine union. Okay, so this is the year of the unicorn, right? This is also a 2-year in numerology. Okay, and this is the 11 year, the 2-year, the year of union, Y-O-U, union. And so this is union with Source, you and Source, and this is you and your twin soul. So when you come together, there's your 3333. Okay, your 3333 is the Trinity, you, your twin soul, and Source as one. Now, also to give you the 1111 equals 4. 4 is the power number in Lemuria. Okay, as you know, it's one of the power numbers. It is the essence of Lemuria, of love, light, oneness, and language. So love and light, pretty much explanatory. Language, our first language, is energetic, soulful, telepathic communication. Yeah, and the oneness is the oneness of all, which goes right back to what Source is, beyond oneness, which is Source energy. Yeah, the encompassment of that. So then you have the 3333, 3333. 3 times 4 is 12. Again, very powerful number, Lemurian number, symbol number. And you have 2222, which is 8. So 4, 8, and 12 are very key numbers, not just for me personally and my twin soul personally, because they are, personal to me. My life path number in this life is a 4, my twin souls is an 8. Together we're 12. But they're also ascended master numbers, or master numbers of Lemuria as well. So it's important of the Lemurian essence. You have the 4, which is the 4 essences of the diamond. You have the 8, which is the 8 of infinity and infinite love consciousness, which is who and what Lemurians are, and Source energy is, obviously, and everything that encompasses that. There's a whole load of wisdom to go with the number 8 in that sense. But that I can just give you as the basics for now. And then the 12 energy, each one of the current 31 Lemurian crystal caves that are here on this earth above the water. There's also other ones below in the sea. But each of the 31 sites have within these crystalline caves, either at the entrance and also inside the caves themselves, 12 light language, light codes, symbols. Okay, so that equals your 3333, your 12. Now the 444, again, I already explained what the 4 is, but you've got 4 times 4, which is 16. Reduced even further, which is 7. 7 is the number of creation. So you have infinite creation coming through. So these are very, very powerful numbers, and why you're seeing them everywhere is for those specific reasons that I've just shared with you, but also to let you know that you are on the right path and you are working with the ancient Lemurian energy and the ancient cosmic energy, because these numbers also parlay into music, also parlay into the music of the spheres, the cosmos, the soul song, because these are also key numbers that are utilized in the music of the spheres, the music of the cosmos, the soul song. If you were to take the light codes or the light energy, the vibrational frequency, and break it down as we do here on this earth, we translate that vibrational frequency and energy into what we call numbers. Okay, which creates our music, which creates sound, which creates everything. Yeah? So those numbers are the key factors. That's why they're so important to you. It is showing you the music, the song of the soul, the song of the universe. So I'm going to once again pause the session and share a couple of things that happened after this session to show about the synchronicities and about the numbers, and also about what I shared earlier in this session for her, about emotions and how our divine masculine has struggled to show those emotions. And then also I share a little bit of that after this section here. But one of the things that I wanted to share was, now at the time that I recorded this session for this woman, it was yesterday afternoon. So my twin soul was actually still sleeping because it was early morning hours for him, as he is 8 hours behind me. Okay, we have an 8-hour time difference. So he had no way of physically knowing what was going on, but his soul knew. So later on, one of the ways that we communicate besides text and email on a constant basis, and audio recording messages and videos and things of that nature, and occasional phone calls and things of that nature as well, one of the other ways we communicate is through his YouTube page. He will often like videos to give me messages, and I share about that here in this session, and then we'll text about them and whatnot, or have conversations and things of that nature about them. So interestingly enough, he went about his day and he started to like a bunch of videos on YouTube that he was going to put on his iPhone for later on in the day when he was going hiking in nature at our sacred spot that we love to meditate at. And so as he was preparing that to get ready to go to the shoreline, 2 videos that he liked came up. One of them was a Rupert Spira video, and some of you may know that last January 2016, I actually spent time with Rupert here in England, down in Oxford. Wonderful bloke, and he has wonderful wisdom on non-duality, or oneness as it's called. And he shares a lot of the same messages that I do, although I share it more in balance. Sometimes he can be a little too in the extremisms. I love him dearly, but he knows that, and through some of the things that I've shared with him, it's helped him to come more into balance with things. But that said, this Rupert Spira video is about this gentleman, this young man, who's speaking about how he uses acid, dropping acid and doing psychedelics to be able to come into this space of connection with Source. And Rupert basically in this video shows him how to do that right here, right now, in the present moment, without the psychedelics. And it's quite beautiful, but one of the things that this young gentleman speaks of is that how he's more open, his heart is more open, his defenses are down, and he's more real and raw and vulnerable and from the heart when he's taking the acid, because it opens up his consciousness, it brings him closer to Source. And so I said this in this session to this woman who I did this session for that you're listening to here. Later on, you'll hear this. And so there was that synchronicity, and it was absolutely beautiful because, my twin soul has had to learn in the 7+ years now that he has been off the drink, that he's taken his vibrant health to the next level, how to actually embrace his emotions in the present moment and share them. And he doesn't do it in a traditional way necessarily all the time, as I share in this session later on. However, and have shared earlier in this session already, however, he is being able to do that now, just as Rupert guided this young gentleman. So there was that synchronicity, which was absolutely beautiful. And again, my twin soul didn't physically know about this session. I text messaged him and let him know, how trippy it was, quote unquote, being that they were talking about acid in this video. So kind of a pun, but not really. I had let him know that, I had just done a mentoring session, a twin soul mentoring session for a woman today, talking about this exact same thing and how I shared about you, meaning him, my twin soul Chris, and or Natu is his soul name, and how he's gone through this process as well of how he can show his emotions in the moment now, and where it was a struggle for him, before, and that he felt that he needed the drink to be able to do that, many years ago. So there was that synchronicity. Then the number synchronicity actually came in just a bit later. A little while later, again, still, he had no idea that I had said this in this session that you're listening to right now. He actually liked a video, another video that he was putting on his iPhone for the hike. It was a higher self video in which she talks about numbers and synchronicities, this woman. She talks about, the 1111s, the 1212s, or, specific numbers specific to you, which is what I talked about here in this session. And so I text messaged my twin soul and said, this higher self video, which the higher self basically is the soul, it's one and the same. I said, the one that you liked is hilarious, not that the video is hilarious, but that what she talks about in the video about the numbers and the synchronicities, I just did in this session a few hours ago that I texted you about earlier today. But he had no idea that I had talked about that. I didn't give him the session. I didn't give him the details of the session, other than to say about the Rupert Spira video earlier in the day, but I didn't tell him about the numbers and the synchronicities. So I thought that was quite amazing. The last thing I'd like to share with you here, and before I go back to the session here for you, is having to do with the synchronicities and the numbers and light language and light codes. I teach in my soul mediumship course, and I teach throughout my other courses and mentorings and sessions and things of that nature. And one of the things that I get asked repeatedly, especially since one of the very first videos on light language singing that went viral, we're talking 10 years ago now, I think now, or close to it, 9-10 years ago, I did this with Shikna Ayanaha, which means universal heart, in light code language, light source energy language, Lemurian language. And it went viral, immediately, and has many thousands of views on my YouTube. It's one of my most popular videos on my YouTube channel. But I get asked this frequently because since I was a wee lass of, 6 years old, I was speaking light language fluently. I was singing it, and I knew exactly what I was saying and speaking. And I know very few on this earth who actually can translate or know what they're saying. Now, me twin soul Chris, Natu, and I, we can have a fluent conversation in Lemurian light language, light codes, language, source energy language, and we know exactly what each other is saying to the other, whether it's writing it in physical earthly characters as best we can, because it's, it's actually comes in light codes, and there are many artists and whatnot that come out with this now, this light language, these light codes, in drawing of symbols and whatnot. But I get asked this frequently, can you teach me Lemurian? Can you teach me light language? Can you teach me what these light codes mean and whatnot? And the answer is no. Okay, it's not the same as teaching, and I've talked about this in my interviews. If you've also seen any of my interviews on my YouTube page that I've done on Lemuria and whatnot, you cannot necessarily teach like language. It comes from the heart, and the heart is the overlay for the soul. So it's about being silent, getting quiet, listening, which I talk about lovingly also in this session here, about silent and listening, being still. They're all made with the same letters, right? From an earthly perspective. But it's when you get quiet, when you listen deeply within your heart to source itself, you will then see these light codes as symbols. It's translated from vibrational frequency. Everything starts out as vibrational frequency, as energy. Tesla's quote is famous for that. If you want to know the secrets of the universe, tune into, think in terms of, he says, vibration, frequency, and energy. Okay, that's why everything starts out as vibration, frequency, and energy. Then we translate that vibration and frequency and energy into sound. As I'm speaking to you now, into light codes, as in physical symbols, as in speaking it, as in writing it. All of that comes through as in the numerical numbers that we call our maths, that we use for music. In source energy itself, there is no maths, there is no actual instruments that play the music. The music is just there. It just is, and I know this very well because I have had 12 near-death experiences. I've died 12 times and come back here in this life already. And so I have a unique connection with Source in that respect. And so I know about the light codes, and I can see the light codes, and I can speak the light codes, and I translate that into the best earthly characters for the soul song, which your soul signature name is, for the music that I do, with me harp and me singing the light language and whatnot. But you cannot teach it. It's not the same as teaching Italian or teaching French or teaching, Sanskrit or whatnot. Sanskrit language, Aramaic, Hebrew language, all of these languages that are the closest to source energy, to light code language, Sanskrit and Aramaic being the first main two, Celtic language, Gaelic, Scottish Gaelic, Irish Gaelic, and Gaelic in general. These are the main languages that are the closest to the light codes, to the light language, that we translate it in. By the time you get to English, it's very watered down, if you will. However, this is the method by which we translate it, but it takes really getting silent. And I teach this in my soul mediumship course. And many who have been on the course since its release almost 2 years ago now, little over a year and a half ago now, I've had many who have been on it, and quite a few who have actually started speaking and drawing light codes, light language, Lemurian language, source energy language, but they have no idea what they're saying or speaking or drawing and whatnot. So I do help them to translate it when it's asked of me. But really, what you're translating is vibrational frequencies. So the light codes themselves, the light language itself is vibrational frequency, is energy. Yeah, we just translate it down into written form, symbols, sound, and whatnot, but it starts as vibrational frequency itself. So when you're seeing light language symbols, if you're an artist and you're drawing them, if you're singing them and whatnot, what you're doing is you're transmitting vibrational frequency. Okay, so I just wanted to be able to share that with you. And now back to the rest of the session. So this is why it's no accident that you received the invitation for this wedding in July, to go back to Italy, why you accidentally left your skirt that your mum gave you at his house. It was an accident in terms of the earthly accident, but it was soulfully deliberate, if you know what I mean. I'm not saying that you deliberately left the skirt there, but your soul knew that you were going to see each other again. Okay, the universe will divinely orchestrate, whether it's through an accidental leaving of skirt or a zillion other ways. I've had it happen many times when we, my twin soul and I, have quote unquote broken up, when Chris and I have quote unquote broken up, although he's always said to me things like, how can I break up with something that I already am? How can I break up with someone who is already and always with me? He's talking about the multidimensional consciousness, instead of the earthly perspective. However, sometimes I have to remind him, that may be very well and true, but in balance, from an earthly perspective, I broke up with you, or, I did this, or, you said this, or what have you. Nonetheless, the universe will bring you back together, because you always come back together. Again, going back to the yin-yang symbol I was talking about of that cartoon. You'll always come back, okay? Twin souls are magnetically, energetically, soulfully, vibrational frequency meant to come back together, because they are each other. Same soul in two bodies, right? You can't run away from, each other, as I said earlier. So you can't really break up with each other. So the universe will orchestrate things to have happen. When this is happening with my twin soul, for instance, back some months ago, now, I think it was, October last year, I had said something similar. I didn't say break up, but I said something like, I'm taking some time away from you. I need, some space kind of thing. And lo and behold, within a few days, I think, or maybe even less than that, a day or two, I received a message from him that a dear friend of both of ours passed away. So, basically Source was saying, right, you thought you were having some space, but guess what? Here, we're putting you back together. Another friend of ours, just recently, a couple of months ago, his girlfriend passed on. And that was during a period of time when we were also taking time from each other. And, again, it wasn't more than a day or two. And boom, the universe said, no, not necessarily. We were thrown back together. It's not always through death, but other circumstances, other synchronicities. So it's not a surprise that has occurred. It is definitely divine planned rather than coincidence. Okay, coincidence, it is the cosmic incident. Okay, so coincidence is coincidence, cosmic incidence or synchronicity. Okay, so it is synchronicity embodied. Okay, you gave him the 2.5 months of space, and some moments, going back to the ghosting, some moments in balance, we are meant to have space from people in our lives, whether it's our twin souls, a relative, a friend, what have you. Sometimes we need to have that space to be able to process either one or both people or whoever is involved, the energies, the triggers, the things that need to be, so that you can come back together in a place of love and harmony. That's for all relationships and unions. However, with twin souls, again, because you're the same soul in two bodies, it's like you're basically saying sod you to Source. You're like saying, I'm not going to breathe right now. It causes tremendous amount of pain. So although from an earthly perspective, he may have felt that he was breaking up with you, although you may have felt that you needed to give him that 2.5 months of space, the truth is that much space is too much space. Okay, it's about giving balance. A few days, perhaps a few weeks, or if you are going to give that much space, it's not with the extremism. In other words, if you say to your twin soul, or don't say, one of the two, if you make a choice that I'm going to give this person space, still tune in. Tune in soulfully, energetically, sending them love, telepathically, energetically, soulfully, and physically connect with them. Even if it's just a, hey, how you doing? It doesn't have to be so heavy. It doesn't have to be the tornado or the hurricane, as from your last session that we talked about that. It doesn't have to be anything heavy. I'm just writing to tell you I love you, like you did. You said you since you reconnected with him, you felt called in your heart to tell him that you love him, and that's fantastic, and that's more than okay. However, it was meant to not take 2.5 months. Okay, a week or two maybe if you felt that, but still tapping in. And it doesn't, when you tap in or tune in other words, when you connect with your twin soul, it's just, you can let them know you still love them. Even if you don't expect to have that, feelings returned, and you just want to share and spread the love. And that's fine. That's actually the perfect place for you to be in, is because twin souls come from a place of unconditional love. So these game playings of ghosting, because that's all it is from an earthly perspective of earthly relationships, ghosting is nothing more than a game playing. Okay, if you're attempting to ghost somebody because you're saying, sod you, I'm done with you, that's just game playing. If you're doing it in the terms of manipulation, I'll be silent because they're silent with me, they ignore me. I know I've done that too with my twin soul. It's just game playing, and it has no place in twin soul union. Okay, earthly relationships, you may do that with soulmates and near twins and situations like that, with relatives and whatnot. That's earthly game playing. It has no basis and no place in twin soul union. It's something that you're meant to work through and they're meant to work through, but you're meant to touch in with each other, connect with each other. If you need a few days or a week or 2 weeks or something of space, you let them know ahead of time. You tell them straight up. Like I've always said to my twin soul, or he has always said to me, most of the time it's me who says it, I need some time away from you. I'm not feeling energetically aligned to you, and here's why. I let him know. I don't just usually disappear. It's been very few times that I've actually just disappeared. And in those times, I know it's just game playing, and when he does it to me, it's just game playing that has no basis, because twin soul union is about unconditional love. It's about authenticity. It's about integrity. Okay, so you tune in, you touch in, you connect in, even if it's just something light. Hey, I saw this video, I thought about you today and I thought I'd send it to you. I was thinking about you today and I just wanted to touch in and say hello, see how you are. And the reason I say that is that, again, even though officially he said he broke up with you, you never really broke up. You're always connected to your twin soul. And so, in essence, he didn't really mean, if you were to really listen, and this is where it becomes very, very important for twin souls to get quiet. I lovingly say this to you, and I say it to all twin souls as well, when I say 4 words: shut up and listen. Okay, as I've said in my videos before, and I've written it over many years and what have you, the words silent and listen are created with the same letters. They create a spell. That's why we call words spelling. Okay, and they actually create a spell. So your words are very powerful, and because of the energetic vibrational frequency of intent behind your words. Okay, this is why we have pain, this is why we have hurt from an earthly perspective. In soul perspective, words mean nothing, because on the other side of the veil, we don't have that, yeah? But we take that vibrational frequency and translate it into sound, translate it into written word, and it casts a spell. So even though he said he broke up with you, it was like, oh, right, I didn't really mean it. And when you're able to shut up and listen, and again, I say that in the kindest, most love, when you be quiet and you allow the monkey mind, the doubt, the worry, oh, is he my twin soul, all of that stuff, the worrisomeness, the troublesome mind, when you get quiet and you really listen with your intuitive heart that I speak about and taught about in the Soul Mediumship course to you, you're able to listen to his heart, because he's also your heart, yeah, because you share the same soul. And when you're able to really listen in to that intuitive heart, which is Source's heart, which is your heart, and his heart as one, your soul as one, you will know that his soul didn't mean it, even though the earthly perspective did. And you can see it in how he's being distant because he's hurting. Okay? He doesn't know how to handle the pain that he's in. And so he's become distant and the overwhelming and whatnot. Yeah? So when you can listen deeply to his heart and know that he didn't mean to break up with you, then your heart's going to want to be in contact. Yeah? Now, again, it's the extremisms. We go from ghosting and not saying a word, oh, I got to give this person space, or I need space, or whatever the situation is, to like bombarding with zillion texts, emails, phone calls, what have you. And I've done that. My twin soul's done that. I've counseled, and mentored many twin souls who do that. So you want to come to balance. You want to come to the middle path to where it's not like so overwhelming one way or the other that you either shut down as he is, or you be so open that you're just bombarding, smothering, overwhelming somebody, twin soul or otherwise. It's about being balanced, yeah? So, and it's practice. I'm not always perfect at it either. 10 plus years, I'm still in that balance, with my twin soul. Just recently, we went through something where, I've just kind of gone off and done my own thing, because he is not into being with me physically, and he has said that over and over again, and he said he won't come here to see me, and he doesn't want to co-create with me, and all of this other stuff. And I have already done the zillions of times of listening to his heart to know that he doesn't mean it. And finally I just said, okay, fine, I'm just going to go off and do my own thing, and I did. And weekly, usually once or twice a week, he does a gig locally, and I will usually text him and say, hey, can you play me a song as I'm drifting off to sleep? And because he's usually playing around the time that, it's 2 o'clock in the morning here, and 6 o'clock there, in the evening when he's playing, and so I will feel him as I'm drifting off to sleep, and I will hear him playing. And so he will send me songs, that he's playing and or going to play for me. Sometimes it's Scarborough Fair, because Scarborough Fair has a special meaning to us, not just the fact that I live here in this country and have been there, but it has special meaning to us. Recently he sent Nights in White Satin to me, that he played to tell me how much he loves me. And he will do that to let me know how he feels, because he can't always say it straight up, I love you, like he used to. Years ago, when he was on the drink, when he was drinking, his defenses are down, his heart was open, and he was able to say it much more. Since he's been sober in the last 7 years, or as he said, he took his vibrant health to the next level and stopped imbibing. In all these years, in 7 years now, since he's been in that place, it's harder for him to express his emotions, and so he does it best through song. And I've always said that about him. So he'll just send me the song titles, or he'll like a video on YouTube, or send me a video and say, hey, I'm watching this, kind of thing, tell me how he feels about me. And so recently he had said, because I had taken this break from him and had been less communicative and less loving per se to him, which I usually am, that loving and being love, he sent me that he played Greensleeves. And he didn't even play Greensleeves. Actually, he played it that night, but he didn't even text me about it until the following day. He was emotionally distant. He was physically distant. He was soulfully distant. And because I had asked him, hey, can you play me something? And I don't know what to say to you, because you tell me you don't want to co-create with me. You tell me you don't want to be with me physically. And that's how I kind of left it at that night. And he never texted me back. Usually he'll text me back either right away or within an hour to say what song it is. And he didn't even do that until the following day. So I knew he was in a tremendous amount of pain, and he was hurting, and didn't know how to say it. And I could feel that because I was listening. I was silent and I was listening. I shut up and I listened. Yeah, I listened to his heart. I listened to him. I hear him beyond the words. And so it's so important that twin souls do that, rather than listening to the monkey mind of the psychics who say, oh, I can't pick up on his energy and you shouldn't believe he's your twin soul. You know in your heart and soul that he is. Okay? And so when I did that, being that we've had total memory recall of our lives as King Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn, he knows that and remembers, of course, that he wrote his own version. People say, oh, it was possibly King Henry VIII. It was, he remembers penning that version of Greensleeves about me, and how I turned him down, and cast him off discourteously, and how he wants me to come back and love him again. And so I knew that was the version that he played, and so I tuned into that and responded accordingly. Okay, so what you may find with your twin soul, and others may find with their twin souls, as each twin soul couple in union has a different take on what's going on based upon soul agreement and based upon the path that you're on. You may find that just tapping in or touching base of saying, hey, I was just thinking about you, isn't enough. Because the love becomes so deep that you need to connect more on a deeper level, which is what I do with my twin soul. Chris and I have come to that point where the love is so deep, and it always has been. And that's the thing. You never break up. You're never away from each other. Yeah, even if there is physical distance, as there is, I'm halfway around the world now, in another country. Even if there is that, there is no time, there is no distance, there is no space. You are together. You are in union physically. Even though if you're not physically together, you're still in union physically. You're still in union soulfully. You're still in union energetically. And this is why, no matter what has happened, you said you're doing so well, with your job and everything else, you say, still you can't help but think about him. Of course. And he, whether he's saying it or not, is also thinking about you. He's also feeling you. And to be fair, he may still harbor some negative feelings towards you for being that tornado, but most of the time, it doesn't last. Now, I will say with my twin soul, he held my tornadoes, my hurricanes, and things that I did, said, and whatnot over my head for years. And he actually used to use it as an excuse to beat me over the head with it and say, well, this is why I'm not with you, and this is why I can't be with you, because you did this and you did that. And what he was doing actually was a reflection of what I did. Not to him, but what I used to do to my ex-husband. Many years ago, when I was married, in the early years of my marriage, because I was angry at the world. I hated myself. I hated the world. I didn't want to be here on this earth and whatnot. And I projected that out on my ex-husband, and I held everything against him. Everything. I mean, right down to the millisecond. You said this to me and you did that to me on this date at this time. And I was really bad, really in my ego at that point. No matter how spiritual I was in that extremism. And so my twin soul was reflecting that back to me so that I could bring that back on another level that I had already healed it on one level between me and my ex-husband. But I was healing it on another level and healing it with him, because that was also something that he had done and throughout his life, my twin soul as well, so that he could release it as well. So overall, though, from a soul perspective, he doesn't care about the tornadoes. He doesn't care about the hurricane. He may still harbor some of that from the earthly perspective, but really, he misses you and he loves you, and he does not know how to handle that. He was relieved, actually. He may not have said a word to you, but he was relieved to hear that you still love him. That was a relief to him and his heart was overjoyed, and he realized, oh my God, even though I broke up with her, because really, he feels like shit for breaking up with you, is what it is. And he doesn't know how to say it. He doesn't know how to tell you, because he does not know how to express his feelings, back from what I said earlier in the session. And if you were really able to be silent and listen to his heart, you would know this. It is about the ancient art of listening to the message behind the message, how to do this. more specifically, not just for listening to Twin Souls, not just for, listening in terms of ourselves, listening to ourselves, listening to Source, but listening for all our relationships and unions, because this will improve our quality of our connections here on this earth. And so it's very important in that sense. So this is why the universe is coordinating this for you to come into connection. So you say you just want to be on good terms and be friends. So does he, and he wishes that to actually be more, and it will come in time. Okay? He's processing those things about what happened. Yeah? And if you feel open to doing so, you can write him a letter of appreciation and a letter to say how you were sorry that was the unawakenedness within you, and that you were just having a moment, that it's something that you've worked through and that you've healed, so that it doesn't happen again, and that if it does happen again, you're able to move through it with him and through your own soul. Yeah. That's if you feel guided to do that. It's completely up to you. So the answer to your question is you are twin souls. You already know that. I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know. This is the real reason why you keep crossing paths. Okay? And this is why, because it's also your soul agreement. And you have what we call life lessons, or from a soul perspective, soul rememberings, to be remembered through this process. And you will come together, and then you will have, quote unquote, what's called a separation, sometimes physically, but it's not ever really a separation. Okay? And if you are twin souls, what is your mission together? Your mission together, looking at your Akasha, your mission together is something that is going to be revealed to you in time. I'm not at liberty to give you the actual contents. What I can say to you is, it is because of everything that you're going through right now, both of you individually as well as together as twin souls, that will be the foundational piece of what your mission is together. Your mission is to help humanity. So in other words, what you are going through right now and how you process it and how you work through it individually and together will be the foundation of what your mission is together in helping humanity. Okay, so that's all I can say to you right now. So when you cross paths, you say you're nervous, because he does seem so emotionally detached. You help to ease that by telling him that you still love him, by telling him that you're still there for him. Okay? Keep the lines of communication open with him, even if it's light. If you find that in hearing his heart, listening within that, you need to connect with him a bit deeper instead of just, pleasantries of, oh, I was just thinking about you, or oh, hi, hello, how are you? Kind of thing, just checking in, then connect with him on a deeper level. You find that as earthly time passes and the deepening of the love happens and the deepening of the realization of that love, it does become more required to connect deeper physically. So I would invite you to keep the lines of communication open, even if it is just, in a passing, to let him know that you're still there, to let him know that you do still love him, to let him know that it's okay and that he is okay, and, that you understand his pain, yeah? And that will help ease it. Love will ease it, okay? And you will find your way to each other again. As to making up stuff in your head, you're free from making up stuff in your head. This is your soul speaking, okay? The energy isn't awkward or tense when you meet. You say any advice. By the time you meet, it won't be awkward and intense. It'll be just as if you saw each other yesterday. Okay, so if you can imagine, it's like, there's all this intense, awkward energy, that happens to be there, that you feel happens to be there right now in this present moment. Okay, part of that is you projecting, part of that is picking up on his energy. Okay, so I would invite you to see that it's partly projection from you, that you're still holding on to that energy, that it feels awkward and tense, and that he is harboring negative feelings. And come into a space of really hearing his heart and hearing your heart, hearing his soul, your soul as one, as the one soul and two bodies that you are, to know that none of that's there. Okay? And then when you come from that place and you stay in that resonance, that vibrational frequency resonance, what will happen is that will ease the awkwardness and the tenseness. And if you can imagine, two old friends, if you will, that have not seen each other for years, years and years and years, and that either ring up one another or they see each other physically, and it's as if they just saw each other yesterday. They completely picked up where they left off, as if no time has passed. That's what it's like with your twin soul. And I will say that from personal experience, okay? Because 10 years ago now, well, actually 9 years ago now, and it was 10 years ago, almost now, when we first met physically, my twin soul and I. He was doing a gig at a spiritual center that is run by mutual friends of ours, and it was winter solstice, and it was the first night that we spent together. And it was magical, it was intense, it was passionate, it was full of deep love and deep connection. We made out. There was just, we almost made love that night physically, and we were together all night. It was very intense. Okay. He then freaked out and pushed me away, so much so that I ended up homeless for a time, and then ended up living back with my ex-husband for a time because I didn't have a place to go. That presented awkwardness and tension and intenseness. And, a few weeks after it happened, I was on air, and I even said, because I listened to his heart and listened to his soul, and my twin soul, and I knew it wasn't who he was. I knew he was doing it out of fear. And I set this live on air about a fortnight later, okay? It was 6 months before we saw each other again, summer solstice, and we did a gig in Sedona together. He had actually, even though there was awkwardness and there was some fear, he had written to me during that time and said, I'm afraid to do this tour. He asked me to put together for him a 13-city tour in America, and I went about doing it, and then at the last minute he bailed on it because he freaked out, because he thought it was going to be city energy, when even though he knew I didn't, do cities and whatnot, he freaked out. Okay, so there was all this intenseness, all this awkwardness, all this energy, right? I still said to him, you're a Sedona virgin, you've never been to Sedona in all these times. Sedona is already booked in, we already have it booked, the venue is already booked. Do you still want to go? Our flights are already booked, all accommodations booked and everything else. Do you still want to go? He said yes. So there was all this intense, awkward energy for 6 months between us, knowing that he had abandoned me, knowing that he had left me stranded alone with very little money in the Kelowna airport, knowing that I had to go back to live with my ex-husband because I didn't have a place to go because I was homeless at that time. All of this awkward energy, okay, all of this tense energy was there between us for those 6 months until that gig. Phoenix Airport, I went to go pick him up, and then we drove from Phoenix Airport to Sedona. When he met me at the airport, he got off his flight, and I saw him and he saw me. It was again just like those two old friends or two lovers meeting for the first time. Again, all of that energy from the 6 months prior was gone. Okay, there was also some intenseness during those 6 months because I did something which was one of the things he ended up holding over my head for quite a while. But also during those 6 months, was a time that I reached out to his daughter and to our mutual friends and some of his friends, asking for some help because of him being on the drink, and he was not acting in his right mind with me. And I knew this, and I had reached out, and he was very angry that I did that. Okay, so all of this anger and intenseness and emotions and awkwardness and all of this tenseness was there. But yet, when we met in the airport, he embraced me and he held me as if my life depended on it. He didn't want to let me go, and I him. Yeah? We drove from Phoenix Airport to have some dinner because it was around dinner time. So we had tea, and we had our tea, and it was just as if no time had passed from the first moment when we were intense as lovers, making out winter solstice night and being together. We ordered the same thing. I ordered food. He ordered the same thing because we both liked the same food. We talked, we laughed as if, we had just seen each other the day before and had just made out the day before. And it had been 6 months. On the drive to Sedona itself, he brought out his guitar and he started playing. We actually started singing together. We sang some mantras. We sang a couple of his songs. And at one point, he stopped the guitar and he said to me, "Thank you." And I was like, "For what?" And he said, "Thank you for believing in me when sometimes I don't even believe in myself." Yeah? So whatever intenseness, awkwardness that you are feeling right now when you meet will not be there. True twin souls let it go. Now, after that, of course, for several years after that, he held certain things against me, and because that tenseness, that awkwardness, happened again, of course. But in those moments when we were together, it was a magical weekend in Sedona. It was one of the best times that we ever had together. There was deep, deep love and deep, deep connection that weekend. We did a photo shoot, we did a video shoot, we had quite a few loving moments together, and it was as if all of that tenseness and emotions and awkwardness and everything else that happened all during that 6 months and whatever happened before when he pushed me away and caused me to be homeless and what have you, it was gone. It wasn't there anymore. Now it resurfaced again, of course, after we didn't see each other. He went back, to Vernon, and I stayed in America for a time, before I rejoined him in Canada a year or so later. But nonetheless, when we met, it disappeared. Yeah? And even though it came back up again during those times when we were quote unquote physically separated so we could heal it. So we could work through it, so that we could come to a place of deeper love. And we have a deeper love now, almost 10 and a half years later now, than we ever did when we first met, if that's even possible. From a human perspective, from a soul perspective, it's infinite. Okay? So this awkwardness that you're feeling, and these things that you think he'll be holding against you the moment that you see one another. Now, you don't have that with normal, quote-unquote, relationships or connections. Yeah? Two old friends who haven't seen each other, even though you may be bitterly angry with each other and argue with each other over the phone or what have you, when you see each other, it's as if you just left each other yesterday and you're, happy and whatnot, right? It's that same dynamic. But with other relationships, you're like, oh my God, I have to see this person again, or oh this, or oh that. And when you see each other, all that tenseness and that awkwardness is there. But with twin souls, it's a whole different kettle of fish. Yeah? So what I can say to you is that understand that you're connecting on deeper levels. Understand that he is no more able to shake you or to let you go than you can him, because you can't let go of your own soul. You can't let go of source. You can't stop breathing unless you want to leave this earth. Okay? So this is what you say you wanted to ask, and you knew that source and I know your soul and could share this guidance with you. So may this lift the fog now and bring you into this sense of calmness, centeredness, and peace. I love you dearly, beautiful goddess, and I know we will talk soon. Espada.